On Tell Me, Dr. K, the question that we are answering today is, what would become of Jehovah's Witnesses if there was a second lockdown? Will the Jehovah's Witnesses be able to survive a second lockdown? The first lockdown, when COVID-19 hit towards the end of 2019 to 2020, it changed the Jehovah's Witnesses forever. Their rigidly controlled routines were disrupted, and their carefully controlled world was torn apart, and they were therefore forced to adapt to the new reality. The question is, what if this happens again? Would the organization be able to recover, or would it even face a greater challenge? COVID-19 was more than a global crisis for the Jehovah's Witnesses. It was a test of their resilience and control. Kingdom halls were shut, in-person ministry halted, and members turned to the internet, a space their leaders had long condemned. The leaders have been calling the internet as spiritual pornography. They've repeatedly warning against this tool of Satan, but this is what they tend to during the breakout of COVID-19. A second lockdown would reopen old wounds and expose the vulnerability of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's look at the last lockdown's impact on the Jehovah's Witnesses. Firstly, there was a loss of routine and community. The first lockdown took away the Jehovah's Witnesses' most powerful tools. Routine and community meetings, conventions, door-to-door preachings were suspended. Members, isolated at home, relied on virtual meetings to stay connected. But many found this impersonal and unfulfilling. And because of that, weekly routines were disrupted. And as a result of that, what happened was that the members of the governing body utilized the internet like many other Christians did. Now, this became so dangerous because in the first place, this is the thing that the members of the governing body had condemned for years as the tool of Satan.
We were talking about that this weekend with friends. Oh, my word, how many times do I have to tell you, be careful? You know, going here, going there, they'll suck you in. See, with some of this stuff, it can seem so innocent. We're just warning you that all we can do is admonish. Stick with what we have authorized. You'll be safe. You want to go out there, it's at your spiritual risk.
But not only that, it gave an opportunity to Jehovah's Witnesses members to think, an opportunity to reflect the routines of going from door to door, from one event to another, where they had no time to think. For the first time, they had time to think because they were all by themselves. And most of them actually turned to the internet. And what happened when they turned to the internet? They were exposed to the apostate materials. They were exposed to alternative interpretation of the Bible. So for a very long time, Jehovah's Witnesses had long relied upon the structured routines to reinforce their beliefs. But without this, they found themselves questioning these same beliefs in a way that they had not done before. Because for the first time, they had space to think. Let's look at point number 2, the rise of internet use among members. With time on their hands, many witnesses turned to the internet. Despite years of warning from the governing body, they encountered criticisms, alternative perspectives, even supportive communities of former members. For some, this was the first time they questioned their faith. Now, this shift was not without consequence. Let's listen to what the Pew Research says. The Pew Research shows that Jehovah's Witnesses exposed to outside materials are among the most likely to question or leave their faith entirely. So the members of the governing body know very, very well. This is deliberate, this is orchestrated, this is engineered, it's deliberate. The only way the members of the governing body can keep enslaving their members is not to expose them to alternative way of thinking, to alternative doctrines. Their doctrines cannot stand scrutiny members cannot justify their beliefs when they're exposed to alternative interpretation of the Bible. That's why they've carefully orchestrated a system of control that makes them to tell the members, firstly, that they alone have the truth. They are walking in the truth, meaning that anything else is not truth. And not only that, they make sure that the members are not exposed to other literature, they call spiritual pornography. And also, they make sure that they are not exposed to the internet. They control their thinking. Not only that, but they created a narrative that Jehovah is only found in the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. I've done a video about how the members of the governing body equate obedience to them to obedience to God. And in this video, I've asked a question and pointed out as to who do really Jehovah's Witnesses worship. For that video, I'll leave a link at the end of this video for you to be able to watch. So you as a member of Jehovah's Witnesses, you should be able to see that actually you have been deceived and then you have been kept in darkness. You are in a system that controls you in such a way that you are not exposed to alternative thinking. If you have the truth stands the test of time. It should be able to stand against scrutiny. But if you have the truth and this truth is protected against alternative perspectives, it cannot stand against scrutiny, then you don't have the truth. You have a lie. Actually, walking in the truth is not being a member of the Jehovah's Witnesses. It is knowing Jesus. Jesus said, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. But the Jehovah's Witnesses have known the truth and the truth has actually bound them. Actually, the truth is Jesus Christ. Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and life. No one goes to the Father but through me. In other words, without Jesus, you don't have the truth. Without Jesus, you don't have life. Without Jesus, you cannot go to the Father. You don't know the way. And the Jehovah's Witnesses have deliberately underplayed the role of Jesus in believers' lives, in their members' lives. But if you read the New Testament is actually all about Jesus. It's about Jesus. Obeying Jesus, honoring Jesus is equated to honoring God. They preached Jesus. They obeyed Jesus. They taught Jesus. They were baptized in the name of Jesus. Some of you may not know that the word Jehovah does not appear in the New Testament, but the Jehovah's Witnesses have actually inserted it so many times. What appears in the New Testament is the word Lord. Let's look at declining membership and selling of properties. COVID-19 pandemic had devastating impact on the Jehovah's Witnesses. There was a serious membership decline after COVID-19 because many members did not return. And what did the members of the governing body do? They had to sell off a lot of kingdom halls. And after that, the organization struggled to regain its former members and influence. Now, imagine if the first pandemic, the first lockdown, has had this devastating impact on the Jehovah's Witnesses. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, the Jehovah's Witnesses organization has not remained the same since COVID-19. Its power, its influence has been reduced significantly. What would be the role of the internet in the second lockdown? We pray that doesn't take place. So in the second lockdown, the internet will play a much greater role in the lives of Jehovah's Witnesses. And this will be both for the organization and for the critics of the Jehovah's Witnesses. The jw.org would play a much greater role and its presence will be much more expanded.
Welcome to JW Broadcasting. This month marks 10 years since the first program debuted. We'll take a look at the special role JW Broadcasting has played in uniting God's people. In Iron Sharpens Iron, we'll learn how to put our website to better use in the ministry. This is the October 2024 edition of JW Broadcasting.
The JW is likely to expand its digital presence in the lives of members. But not only that, members again will face the temptation of exploring the internet. And unfortunately, this time around, they know where to look. If you are enjoying this video, kindly do me a favor, like, subscribe, and smash that notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will be notified. Here is the warning from David explained about members actually doing that.
So in this talk, we're not going to discuss persecution. We're going to discuss two of the subtle means Satan uses to weaken our faith: apostasy and negative reports about Jehovah's Witnesses in the media. So first, let's talk about apostasy, and we'll call it spiritual poison. Now think about poison. What's the best way to avoid being poisoned? Well, we have to recognize poison when we see it and then avoid it. And the same principle applies to teachings that could destroy our faith. And that's not always easy. Now, not many of our brothers and sisters would deliberately get involved with apostates, but it could happen without our realizing it. We receive letters at times from brothers and sisters who are troubled by something they saw on a web page, an accusation, a rumor about the society or about the organization. And the problem is, they had no idea that apostates were behind it. It's tricky, because the apostates don't advertise, "You are now on an apostate web page." They often pose as sincere witnesses who just have questions or concerns. And some who aren't really apostates can cause just as much trouble as the apostates do by their negative talk and criticism. Brothers, we need to be on the alert. This is serious. Suppose that, out of curiosity, you get into a discussion forum with individuals who claim to be Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. You don't know. You've never met them. And someone starts asking questions. What did you think of last month's broadcast? Did you really find it encouraging? Or do you think the brothers who write Watchtower articles are living in the real world? I wonder if they realize just how hard it is out here. And then a few others join in with their own negative comments. Now, you don't know whether these individuals are apostates or just brothers and sisters who are in serious spiritual trouble. But does it matter? How does it make you feel? When you leave the forum, do you feel upbuilt? Determined to expand your ministry? More convinced than ever that Jehovah has an organization that you love and that you're delighted to be a part of. You feel honored to be a part of that organization. Or does the experience leave you sad, uneasy, uncomfortable?
So this time it will not be like the first time when they didn't know where to look, when a lot of members' internet skills were limited. This time round, they know where to look. And in an effort to try to challenge what they are watching, they will slowly start questioning their beliefs. The last lockdown showed that even devout members could be swayed by the wealth of information online. A second lockdown would amplify this trend. Let's look at the loss of control over young members. Young members already tech-savvy would especially be more vulnerable to outside influences. The organization warnings against spiritual pornography might ring hollow after years of online exploration. The risk of losing the next generation of Jehovah's Witnesses would even be greater. I found one source that claimed that 85% of the members of the Jehovah's Witnesses come from the witness families. In other ways, the Jehovah's Witnesses actually are not as successful in proselyting as they claim to be, because most of their members, 85%, are actually just their own children. They come from witness families. Their evangelism is not effective. Is not effective. This is inbreeding, crossbreeding evangelism. Now, the internet doesn't just provide criticism. It provides alternative perspectives. It offers alternative communities, alternative interpretation of scriptures, and a sense of freedom which many members of the Jehovah's Witnesses have not experienced. Let's look at the deeper crisis of faith. For those who remained loyal after the first lockdown, another period of isolation could reopen doubts. Without the regular reinforcement of meetings and ministry, the spiritual wear and tear would continue to grow. This is what is likely to happen. The old members that survived the onslaught of the internet in the first lockdown would barely survive the second lockdown, because the second lockdown will actually reopen the doubts that were created in the first lockdown when they had time to be able to examine alternative perspectives. So without the regular reinforcements of ministry and meetings, the spiritual wear and tear will continue to grow in the second lockdown. How is the leadership likely to respond? The governing body would likely double down on their warnings, using fear to keep members in line. They may intensify claims that the internet is a trap set by Satan and that loyalty of the organization is the only path to survival. To adapt, the organization would likely expand its virtual ministry and online content. Conventions might become entirely digital, and letter writing campaigns could replace door-to-door preaching. The question is, would these measures be enough to keep members engaged? Would this be as effective as physical meetings? The second lockdown could force the organization to make permanent structural changes, closing more kingdom halls, merging congregations, and relying on smaller localized groups. This would mark a significant shift from their traditional centralized model. What would be the long-term implications? The isolation of the second lockdown would actually accelerate the decline of the Jehovah's Witnesses sect, especially as more members discover or uncover alternative perspectives online. And for those who are already questioning, it might be the end. This would be the last time they actually be members of the Jehovah's Witnesses sect. Now, the second lockdown would actually make the divide even bigger between the loyalists and the questioners. This internal fragmentation could weaken their faith's unity over time. Let's look at what the role of ex-members would be in the second lockdown. Ex-JW witness communities already growing in influence would likely see a surge in activity. For many struggling members, these spaces offer the support and understanding they no longer feel within their organization. The first lockdown actually exposed cracks within this carefully controlled and orchestrated system. So the second lockdown will actually deepen these cracks. And as these cracks deepen, it is going to create more dissenters. It will cause even more members to doubt. And out of these, a lot of them would leave the organization permanently, never to be a Jehovah's Witness again. Jehovah's Witnesses have long been known for their resilience, but challenges of modern world, technology, doubt, and shifting cultural landscape are unlike any other they've faced before. The question isn't just how they would survive another lockdown, but whether they can survive the long-term effects of the rapidly changing world. If you are enjoying this video, kindly do me a favor, like, subscribe, and smash that notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will be notified. Now, you have to understand that the Jehovah's Witnesses have actually been very, very resilient. They've faced many challenges over 1.5 centuries of their existence. But unfortunately, the problem is that the challenges of postmodern world are not what they've experienced before. Because in the postmodern world, there is the challenge of the whole world becoming a global community. They do not have the power to control members as they used to have, where they used literature, they used meetings. The world has become globalized, has become a global village where influence in one area can affect another area. It's a period where no one is actually in control. Even unknown people to the world like me, who many of you who have watched my videos never knew existed, now know that I'm here. Hey, I exist. So that is the challenge that they have. And then the issue of technology, doubt, the shifting cultural landscape are not things that the Jehovah's Witnesses can actually survive in the face of a second lockdown. The question isn't just how they would survive the second lockdown, but whether they can survive the long-term effects of the rapidly changing world. This is an hypothetical situation. I'm extrapolating what happened from the first lockdown to the second lockdown. And the question is, what do you think would happen to the Jehovah's Witnesses in an event of a second lockdown? Do you think they would survive? Do you think they would adapt? And if so, how would they adapt? What would be the impact of the second lockdown on the Jehovah's Witnesses organization? Share your thoughts below and join in the conversation of this important topic. If you've derived benefit from this video, or if this video has kept you thinking, like, subscribe, and smash that notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will be notified. Then you can choose whether to watch it immediately or to watch it later. To watch the other videos about the digital storm and how 10,000s of Jehovah's Witnesses left, click on this link. To watch the other videos about how the members of the governing body equate obedience to them to obedience to God, click on this playlist.